So as Shankar said, right, so I'll be talking about how within Cisco we have been leveraging data science, AI, machine learning. I know in last 9 months or so since ChatGPT has been announced, there's been so much discussion, so much things, but this is how we have been leveraging, right? Think from me being a security practitioner, and I think most of you are security practitioners here, right? What you should be able to get out of this presentation within Cisco, how have we as a security operations team, SOC team, right, within Cisco, have been looking at leveraging AI ML in improving our detections, and how we have been leveraging it to automate a number of things, and then you should be able to take it back, right, how you can think of leveraging it within your practice, within your security thing. And along with me, there is number of folks from my team, if you can raise hands, to cheer me up, who have been part of this. So I'm presenting a lot of the work here, right? They have been part of building all those things which we have been sharing. Now, another thing to keep in mind, right? We all work for Cisco here, right? Myself and my peers, but we are not going to be talking about a Cisco product. I know Cisco build wonderful networking and security products. This is focused on our team, which is more internally focused to protect Cisco, how we do our threat detection and monitoring and incident response. So hope you will enjoy and take some of the lessons. So the different things I will go about, right, is just introducing what our team is, right? What are some of the challenges which motivates us to look into AI ML? What were some of the initial, I'll say, use cases or things which we focused on? Okay, let's leverage that. How can we improve it? And then we are going to be going into, I'll give you, I picked up 4 or 5 use cases out of those. Hopefully we can cover up, right? That will give you different scenarios where we have tried to use AI ML, as well as we'll talk about what are some of the future considerations for us. And hopefully the mic is well, right? You can hear me well? Back, thank you. So few slides just to give you a view of what exactly is this team, right, which is working on within Cisco. So like any other team, right, we are a incident response or a CSIR team, right, which gets a lot of telemetry across the whole Cisco. Goal for our team is to protect Cisco. That includes all our employees, all our partners, all our offers, right? Offers for Cisco means Meraki, Jasper, WebEx, number of those cloud services which we offer to the customers. So we get, and our ears and eyes are logs, right? And that's why the data science and AI ML becomes very interesting for our team, because our telemetry comes in form of terabytes, petabytes of logs flowing into our SOC data center, right? And we are trying to see how we can leverage some of those mechanisms, which I'll go in detail. So what you see on this slide is we get telemetry from so many different places, from our data centers, from employee laptop to cloud services, right? And I'll go a little more deeper into the number of cloud accounts across AWS, GCP, Azure, which we get logs from. And then okay. And then we have a global team, right? We have around roughly 150 to 200 people globally, right, which is responsible for detection and response, right? And a big chunk of the team is analysts, right, as well as investigators, right? That makes a big chunk of our team who are looking at that, writing better plays. Then we have threat intelligence team, right, which looks into the threat intels and keeps on adding those feeds and those things into it, as well as some of our engineering, our program management team, right, which manages. So if you look at those numbers here, roughly 200, you can multiply by 2, right? That's how many people which we have in each of the roles, right? We have probably 80 to 90 analysts globally, 15 to 20 investigators, right, globally, which are working on and analyzing. So with that kind of background in the mindset, right, since we are focusing on the cloud here, let's look at, right, I'll give you a perspective on, I know some of you heard other presentations today, right, what they see, what kind of issues they see in the cloud, right. So I'll pick up the few which we have been seeing, right, as we do our detections. And some of them are going to be very familiar, right. So this is just to bring it, right. So definitely the unauthorized access to the resources, right, like S3 bucket, that's the number one. One of the speakers today talked about, right, a lot of the issues in the clouds are due to the configurations or misconfigurations, right, not being right. We see that all the time. Exposure to the databases, right, someone deliberately or by mistake, because they ran a script, right, and that exposed a database outside, right, and that's a very common thing which we see. The identity compromises, right, another thing which is probably rising up, which you may have all seen, is the identity, right, because if the bad guys have keys or other things, right, if they compromise that, then it's a game over, right. You can secure everything, but they have the key and they can go and get those things. And few others, right, malware, ransomware, we still see some of the infected hosts, right, getting infected, along with the service accounts with elevated privileges, right, and that's one of those best practices, right, where we have elevated privileges, service accounts being used for the things which you should not be using it for, right, because it has elevated privileges. And another thing which is increasing is, and you will see that we have, just for AWS alone, we are closing to 7,000 to 8,000 accounts across CISCO, right, which we secure. When we have so many number of accounts, right, and then multiple accounts being used by the team, they give cross-account access and other things, and there could be a lot of mistakes, right. Someone can give a cross-account role, right, to a production account and not remembering those kind of privileges. Now, given CISCO being a big enterprise, right, 10,000 or so accounts, right, people come in, people leave. Sometimes we have, okay, who is the accountable person for this particular account, right, and we have used this term zombie accounts, where, okay, we find this account is there, but there's not an owner, right, and that's a constant problem which we have to deal with. Along with the replication of data, right, that's one of the theme which is emerging, right, and I know Blaine is there, who is one of our resident lawyer, right, who looks into, as the laws and regulations are increasing, right, the data movement in the cloud, right, where it replicates things, you may or may not be aware, right, it's replicating, and then you may need to figure it out how you comply to certain regulations, laws, geographical affinities. So that's kind of, I picked up top 10, right, which I've seen in the discussions, especially from the cloud, and these are more from what we see on the ground. So I'll just put like the MITRE attack, that's another common framework which we use to map it, right. I think you are all familiar with the attack. If you're not, you should be actually looking at it, because that becomes a framework for us as SOC or investigation team to look at, like, how the attack patterns are emerging. So this is a picture at a high level, right, on how we do the cloud monitoring currently, right. So what it shows is, we have mainly 3 providers, right, AWS, GCP, Azure, which we use. And we have, as I said, 10K plus accounts across all those providers, right? And like what you will expect, right? Our ears and eyes, which are the logs flowing into our SIM, right, which gets aggregated. Now, there are some key points, right, I want to make on this slide, which will actually make into where we are applying AI and ML. Is this middle piece, right, where we are having this plays, right? So play is the term which I will use repetitively, right, and some of you may be familiar, right, who are especially with the SOC and incident background, but plays are our scripts, right, which will correlate logs, will be running all the time looking for what we call indicator of compromises, right. So they look for anything which looks bad, right, and then once those plays trigger, right, that's where it goes to some of the investigators or analysts to further analyze it, right, to see if it's a false positive, true positive, right, what exactly is going on, right. And then what you see is a feedback loop here, right. Once they see it, right, they can improve the plays. So currently, one of the number which we have currently around 900 plays across all those different logs, right. And one of the things which you will see is it's a difficult problem for us to manage all those 900 different detection mechanisms, right. And 100 plus is only for the cloud kind of plays. We have 100 plus plays, right, which are detecting different things there. And there could be a different talk, right, on the cloud plays and what exactly we are doing on those 107. Now, similarly, we have a vulnerability. One of another area which our team focuses is on vulnerability management. And this is kind of, to me, a general architecture here, right, which I expect any enterprise, right, as big as CISCO or even smaller to have, right, with some of the vulnerabilities. I think the key thing here, especially for the cloud, is the bottom one, right, which is becoming more and more important, where a lot of the security issues are not kind of traditional vulnerabilities in the software, but those are the misconfigurations. So it becomes equally important for us to figure it out, those misconfigurations, right, and then reporting it and working with the teams. now this is kind of, this is to me a base, right, which is okay, you have 200 analysts, investigators working on these petabytes of logs flowing, right, and you saw some numbers like 200 million plus events are flowing just from the cloud, right, and we have so many data centers, so many laptops, extranets, partner networks, so many places where we have the logs flowing in, right. So what you will expect a challenge for a security operations team given that footprint, right. So one of the challenges, log volumes, right. Log volumes are always increasing, right. There's a more and more need for monitoring more, right, especially within the cloud space itself, right, which I've been leading from the monitoring perspective. I've seen it probably 5 or 6 fold just in the last 3 years, right. How it used to be 15 to 20 million per day from the cloud logs to almost 200 plus right now, and it's going to keep on increasing. Keeping up with detection plays, like I talked about, right, now we have to build the detection plays, the kind of things which bad guys are after, right, that's increasing. The complexity and usage of the cloud is increasing, right, that's probably, I think everyone should be seeing that, right. I've seen number of applications moving into the cloud. That means we have more of the workloads running in the cloud, producing more logs. And the bad guys are going to be where all those workloads or your sensitive data is, right. So we have to improve the detections. Ephemeral resources in cloud, which is a good and bad. If you heard the last presentation, right, so from Sunil, that was interesting. He was seeing how the ephemeral nature of things can be used to improve security. But on the other hand, for us as an investigator, ephemeral brings new challenges, because by the time we detect something, right, the play triggers, there's something bad there, and it's gone, right, that host is gone, right. So we have to think differently how we deal with the ephemeral nature of things. And security analyst investigator skills, right, those are expensive skills, right, and a good analyst investigator is worth and gold, right. I think we all know that. And analyst burnout. Now with those challenges, right, as AI ML was data science was emerging field, how we looked into, okay, how we can leverage it, right. One of the theme you will see is a lot of our analyst investigators traditionally are network admins, sysadmins who have grown to become a security analyst, right. There are few who have application development background, but those are less, right, traditionally. They're increasing number, but if I say 70-80% of them have strong sysadmin, network admin, those kind of backgrounds. Now that makes it interesting, because what I'm going to be talking about as we start leveraging more AI ML, one of the things which I've been pushing is how I make my analyst investigators learn more about coding, how they can write things, right, automate things with the code scripts, with some of the what you will see here, leveraging Python, leveraging Jupyter notebooks, do their analysis there, right. So that's one of the shifts which we are trying to push on, right. Take the analyst investigator, mix them with more skills on becoming a developer, becoming a coder, right, so that they can code it. Now, what were some of the opportunities which we saw, right, and let's look at the opportunities here, especially from the security operations. The first one, right, so I talked about 900 or so detection plays, right, but if you actually look at those plays, most of them are based on the regular expressions, right, traditional regex, okay, you look for these things, you look for signature based things, right. So now AI ML gives you ability to do anomaly detection, right, and some call it behavioral detections, because you can look into the trends, you can look into the statistics, you can look into the deviations. That's one of the big opportunity there, right, and we'll go into some of the use cases. So one of the goal is how we can take like regular expression based plays to mix up the anomaly based detection and make it much better, right, because one of the things which we deal with is false positive. Something triggers, analyst spends hours in analyzing it, and it comes out to be false positive. Can we actually help out those analysts to give a better results which have less false positive? That's always kind of one of the things which we which we work on. Time series analysis, right? So if some of you who have looked into the data science AI, there's a lot of very good libraries which gives you time series analysis capabilities, right? So we have looked into leveraging that capability, because at the end of the day, the logs coming for security are time series, because it's based on certain time, certain things are coming, right? And you can leverage those. The third opportunity which we see here is the visualizations, right? So some of these data science libraries give you a very nice visualizations which you can put it very quickly yourselves in terms of Jupyter Notebook, right? You don't need expensive developers to do those visualizations. You can actually take the data and put it in a different visualizations using some of the libraries which I will mention in minutes, right? So it gives the analyst a quick look at, okay, how quickly I can visualize it myself. Few other things, right? Simplify reporting metrics via prompt engineering. One of the use case you will see here, right? That's one of the use case, leveraging LLMs, right? How we can use LLMs prompt engineering to create reports, because sometimes you want a data in so many different formats, and if I have to give it to a developer and say, okay, can you create these reports, they may take few weeks, few months to create reports in Tableau, versus LLM prompt engineering gives you a way to quickly change your, can I convert this to a pie chart versus give me a time series for 12 months versus 3 months, right? So it gives you a lot of those capabilities which you can just, you don't have to even code those things, right? And one of the concepts which we have been trying to think of is this co-analyst concept. You may have heard of this co-pilot term, right? So co-pilot is a term where we leverage generative AI to create code or help out a developer, sit with the developer, think of it as, right, and then create a code. Similar kind of mindset, a co-analyst. Co-analyst is, okay, these utilities, these tools are sitting along with the analyst, helping them identify certain things, giving them some nudges or giving them some data points for them to take their decisions quickly. And then the other thing, the last thing I will touch here is even if we want, right, one of the things which even I didn't realize when I joined the team, the time of engineering time gets spent on structuring, formatting logs, because you see petabytes of log flowing, right? And in the ideal scenario, you'll think all the logs look similar, all the timestamps should be similar, everything should be called IP address, this should be called host, this should be called client in all the logs. But the reality is it's all over the place, right? You plug in another kind of application. Now you'll be lucky for them to give you IP address for the client IP address. The second thing would be, it will be called something totally different, right? So you deal with taking the data, trying to structure it, normalize it to your thing, right? And then again, that's where data science machine learning gives you very quick way to take some of those unstructured data and try to put it, right? So we've been trying to look at that as another use case. So what I have put is some of the things as we put this program, right? We were thinking, okay, these are all the different opportunities. Let's go and exploit those and leverage it, right? And I'll show you some of the use cases, right? How we are taking some of these, right, and trying to use them. Now, as I was saying that as we started building this program almost 1.5 years back, okay, we said, here is where we stand, right? What is our starting point for us? So definitely starting point for us could have been, okay, let's hire 10 data scientists, right? And then lucky to get those 10 data scientists, right? Then you may not even get them with the cyber security or security kind of thing, right? So the way we leverage is, can we take our existing analyst investigators who are already have a very solid background in cyber security, can we kind of bring them up to speed on learning some of these packages, thinking about how we can use that, right? So what we did as part of that, right? So the base thing is skills, right, for the analyst, right? How we have certain skills. Means definitely Python is the base thing, right, which we use and is being used for the data science, right? Along with giving them an environment, right? So one of the things you may have heard is Jupyter Notebooks, right? If you haven't heard, I'll say should try it out, right? That's one of the ways we have actually taken a lot of our existing plays and try to automate that, right? So we started kind of having some study groups for the analysts, right? As well as we had some developers kind of motivate them, say, okay, let's let's teach each other, right, as well as what's our platform available, like a Jupyter Hub available for the teams to try out things. As well as some investments, right, because I know Cisco recently bought Splunk, right, but even before any of these SIM tools have certain mechanisms, like Splunk has something called machine learning toolkit, right, so we enabled that, right, so we can leverage the power of what is coming out of box, as well as a combination of what are the different libraries, anomaly based algorithms, models already available, right, use a combination of that. So that's the base which we created within the team, right, year and a half back, so that we can start going towards that. And then we started a program which we call Plays as Code, right. The mindset is, can we take our plays, right, convert them into code, right, more kind of leveraging these things, more from just signature based analysis for the plays to more anomaly based, how we add data science and those things into that. So again, let me go a little bit into what traditional play, right, and actually some of the experts from my team has written a book, right, which is a sold book or well-known book, right, which is on how we have had this concept of plays, right, probably 10 years back. So what we are saying is plays, right, are good because plays look for certain things, right, and they run on the log. How we to take those plays and make them more play as code, right, which I talked about, right, how we add some of the data science anomaly based detections into those. So currently, what's our state, right? So currently we have, like I said, we have around 900 plays, right? So we definitely cannot take all the plays and convert it into AI ML, right? So we took some of those, right? And again, I'll go into some use cases. We have currently 18 detection plays, right, which are running in production, which are running and handling around 200 million security log events on daily basis, right, and giving us some things. Along with, as we were doing the plays, we also come up with this what we call those analyst focused, which I talked about, this whole concept of co-analyst, right, notebooks which are available, right, so that they can, for example, they can put an IP address and it can do multiple analysis for them based on certain IP address or other things, right. So notebooks, so that we can encourage them to do their analysis as part of the code. It can run a query, it can do further logic into it. And one of the things which is recently, which we have been even also looking at, right, our team has been in existence since I joined Cisco more than 20 years back, right. So that means we have so much wealth of knowledge of past incidents which have been handled by our investigators and analysts, right. So when we have so much of the data, we can, why not, when we get another play run, go into all the previous play runs, right, and what were analyzed, and should we be able to mine all that data and bring it out, right, as part of the co-analyst. So that's one of the at the bottom, what you say is one of the area which we are looking into, right. How can I mine, because our analysts will write a case notes, right, and that's a unstructured data, but we have thousands of case notes, right. Can I take a case note and take that unstructured data, right, and make it available for the analyst? Think of it like if a new analyst joins the team, if he has to get trained by the analysts who have been there for a number of years to figure it out how we have been handling that, right, versus we are able to leverage some of the machine learning models to help out, right, summarize it for the analyst. So as I said, right, we'll go into a few of the use cases, right. Hopefully you get an idea, right, what's the problem which we are trying to solve here. We're trying to take our existing plays, improve our detection, better automate it. As I said, we have around 18 or so plays which we have already automated. I picked few of them, right, which I can share here, right, and some of the utility notebooks. So that should give you some ideas, right, how we have been trying. So the first one here is what you may have heard, actually, I think all three speakers in this room talked about coin mining, right, because that's an increasing problem, especially for the cloud resources. So that was one of the first play which we automated, right, on how we can detect, right, the resource misuse, right, in terms of anomalous use of resources in a given account. So let me go one by one, right? Let's go into our first use case, right? And that should give you some thoughts and ideas. So first use case here, and I know it's probably difficult to read that slide, and I probably don't want you to read that slide anyway, right? The bottom one, right? So what you see here is, okay, when we looked into coin mining happening, right? So what would have been a traditional way to look for a coin miner? Okay, we'll look at the network flow. We'll say, okay, something is running and it's going and trying to talk to a coin mining service, right? And there could be so many services, so we have to track, okay, it's going to talk to this IP address, which is a coin mining bank here, right? So that could have been a traditional way of looking at it. Okay, now for if I have that kind of play, which is always looking for a certain coin miner domains or IP addresses, right? Then we need to constantly update, right? Okay, tomorrow we have new domains, tomorrow we have some more, right? Or some have gone away, right? So we have to constantly do that, because if we just base it on signature, now the mindset here is, along with signature, can we base it on the usage, right? So if you look at like Cisco having 10,000 AWS accounts, right? Definitely not all AWS accounts will have the same usage, right? It's kind of like the scale, where we have maybe out of that 10-20% accounts are very heavily used production accounts, so many accounts which are low use, right? So if we are able to learn about a usage, because coin mining means what a coin miner will do, they will try to actually spin up expensive servers on your account, right, to mine the coins so that they can do it, right? So if you see a anomaly here, right, which is, okay, I generally this account hasn't seen 100 servers running, the average is 10-15 servers that run in this account, right? And we see a spike, suddenly it has 110 times more servers, right? That's an anomaly, right? And let's detect it and let's correlate it with other traffic, right? And that may help us, give us better activities on the coin mining. So that's one of the play which we added. That was one of our first play, right? What you see there at the bottom is we have to learn, right? Because each account could be different. If you have 10,000 accounts, right, you cannot apply that one account metrics to the other account. You have to learn about one account and see what's the usage, right? And then you need to figure it out, what's the threshold, right? So we had the mechanism where we wanted to see those thresholds rising. Now this could be interesting thing not only for coin mining but for any other abuse happening, right, in the account. So another thing for us to scale out, right, we also build out a backend architecture where we want to involve the account owners, because like I said, we are a team of analysts, right? Sometimes there is a real reason that someone put a new service in production and they are seeing the increase, right? So we build a whole architecture not only for detecting that, right, but also sharing this with the account owners. So this is, again, I won't be able to go through the whole architecture. At a high level, what it's doing is it's taking those logs, running through the algorithms so that we can see any anomalies, and then we have what we call a bot, right, which is a bot where it sends the alert directly to the teams who are owning that account, because they are the best decision maker on seeing, okay, if it is something bad or something expected, right? So some architecture. Now the key things I want to call out here is leveraging that thinking that, okay, this is how we should be able to do that, right? And given your environment, how you reach back and involve those account owners, right, more, so that you can scale yourself, right, as a SOC team. So I'll take another use case, right? This is another anomaly based use case, but this is a little different, right? As I said, we have 100 plus different indexes and log sources flowing into our enterprise. So one of the issue when you have hundreds of data centers, thousands of accounts, right? So now if I have 10,000 account, I can know that my AWS logs are flowing in or not, right? Yes and no. Versus what about this account out of 10,000 is no longer sending me logs, right? Or this account which was sending me too many logs, or this, let's say 10K logs per hour, is sending me only 1K logs, right? The threshold has increased. So we have some Zabbix checks traditionally which looks for 0 and 1, okay, no logs, yeah, it can detect an alert, but what about it fell below certain thresholds? again, some of the machine learning data science gives you capability to do those things very quickly, right, and then apply it on all those indexes and all those log flows, right. And what you see here is especially the AWS, Azure, GCP logs, and we are trying to actually figure it out what should be the threshold for those indexes, right, and then defining certain certain parameters on if it is falling below that threshold, right. We create certain alerts as well as other things for the operational team, right, as we see those. So that's another use case, right, how you can take some of the advancements there, right, and apply it. The third use case I want to do is for the attack surface, right. So as I talked about the vulnerability management, right, traditionally you'll have Qualys, Tenable scanners going on and running and giving you vulnerabilities and finding it, right. But the reality today with the attack surface for any big enterprise, your actual attack surface, which is kind of your externally exposed space for a given company, is always changing, right. What I mean by that, right. So if you look at like what exactly is the attack surface, let me pick up Cisco because that's what I know most, right, is. So as a bad guy or as a attacker, they will say, okay, what Cisco looks like? Cisco looks like all the data centers, all the office spaces, all the employees which are kind of in this conference on their laptops, all our partners, all our offers, services like WebEx. And as a bad guy, I may want to, now I see so many places I can attack Cisco on, right, or a given enterprise on. And it's always changing. Why it's always changing? Because if you're using cloud, because of the ephemeral nature of the cloud resources, things are going up and down. Your attack surface is not constant, right, it's always changing. And that's where you have to answer it with the quickness, right, of you should always be checking, right, what's your attack surface which is changing and knowing it, right. So that was the kind of problem statement for us, right. If you see traditional data centers to mostly on cloud, right, workforce is mostly remote, right, versus sitting in the office, right, and SaaS applications, pretty much, right, number of enterprise applications from office to even HR applications are all SaaS based, right. So your attack surface is much different than what the traditionally has been. So now taking that attack surface and taking how we take our vulnerability management data, right, and then trying to actually look into even our IP addresses, right. We don't know at this point, right, what are all the different IP addresses or endpoints which may be connected to different network, how Cisco looks like, right. So the mindset here is, can we do a very fast loop and figuring it out a given IP address belongs to Cisco or not at a given time, right, and then we see the coverage, right. What you see is some work happening, right, where we are looking into the IP address, right, and trying to figure it out, right, how much probability or how much fairness we have that this IP address still belongs to Cisco or it doesn't belong to Cisco, right. So it's doing some probability analysis on number of parameters, right, and think of it running to so many IP address space, right, at a constant time. That helps us to keep the attack surface. So the next use case which I'm going to talk about is on the vulnerability management, right. So what's the problem statement here, right? We deal with EVMP called Emergency Vulnerability Management program, right. What it means is if you have a 0-day, how do we react, right? And we have a vulnerability management team which is always looking into, okay, this is a 0-day thing, right? What is the impact to us? What is the impact to Cisco? Now the impact to Cisco, since it's a 0-day, many researchers are twittering about it. There's a vendor maybe struggling with figuring it out, okay, how to respond this. And we are trying to figure out as a enterprise, okay, what's our footprint of this particular software, right, which has a 0-day now. So we have like team of ops people, the vulnerability operations team, which is trying to figure out all that from this telemetry. So the mindset here is, can we actually leverage the AI ML model, right, to do that analysis, quick analysis for them. Generally, kind of the questions which I ask, that's what an analyst is looking for within few hours. They're trying to figure it out, how bad this is for Cisco, what will be the impact of the Cisco, what we should be doing, right. Now, can we give those data points which those guys are looking, those Twitter feeds, some of the tool data which we have bought for threat intel, right, as well as pages for the vulnerabilities related to the vendor, give all the data to LLM model, let it learn and figure it out, give those questions to it and ask it, okay, what do you think, right? What's the risk of it and others? Now, definitely it may not be doing as good a job, right, as a human being can do, but it could be a concept of like a co-analyst. Okay, it did it analysis, it gave you something, right? Maybe you can look at it along with what you think, right, and can make you quicker. So this thing is something which we have been trying out. Means frankly, it's not giving us the best results yet, but it's a try to figure it out how we can use these things, right, to do better. The next one is a simple use case, right, which is for us like it's a phishing, but it's actually not the phishing detection part of it, right? So CISCO being so huge, we have so many different business units. We have this, and audit is everywhere, right? Audit and compliance. So we'll have audit, compliance going on, so many business units, and they're running as part of the audit. One of the things auditors like to do is phishing campaign and try to show, okay, how good you fare on a phishing campaign. So we deal with it, right, where we have phishing campaigns, multiple going on at any time, right, and us as a SOC team, they will come back to us and say, okay, we ran this phishing campaign last week, can you go give us statistics on that, right? So what you see here, and that has been kind of one of the manual work to something where we have been kind of able to leverage some of the machine learning and data science there. What you see here is a concept called cosine similarity, because if someone reports a phishing, if someone has reported or not reported, that's the analysis auditors generally want. Okay, how many people reported on it? Now, if different people will report it in a different way, by someone attaching, someone forwarding, and other things, right? So we try to take all those reported things, right, and because are they similar to this campaign or is it part of that, right? So we are able to use some of the cosine similarity to give us quick those reporting rather than doing those manual, right? So that's again a specific use case, right? Maybe for us, right? So but we were able to figure it out, right? With some knowledge of, I think few things need to come together here, right? Some knowledge of, okay, we have some models which can give us quick wins there, right? Knowledge to how to use those models as well as automating it. Now, if you're wondering, right, okay, we have these use cases, right, as I talked about some of the back-end work which we have to do. As we did that, we also build a back-end, right, which can help us, right, because we have a back-end, right, which consists of a mechanism through which can integrate with the bot, which you see at the top, right. So we want our analysts to be able to trigger number of notebooks by just commands, right, so they can talk to the bot and trigger, can you run me phishing campaign, right, for this particular phishing between these states, or can you do a deep analysis on this IP address or a set of IP address, right, those kind of things. So to give that functionality, right, through bots so that our analysts can quickly leverage it. Obviously we have to give kind of, for us to integrate with other plays, right, we have to give it a API access. Right, and in the back end, what you see there is it's running in the Docker container, right, and we have been scaling. One of the things which we have been dealing with is even pushing some of this workload into the cloud, right, because machine learning, as you use more and more, right, it's going to be compute memory intensive workloads, right, but currently we are running it in the Docker container. And what you see is as we integrate, we have to integrate with number of the data sources, because a given notebook has to go and talk with number of sources to make the decision. And what you see is for the analyst, right, at the end of the day, which you see attribution and visualization, because as they see the results, right, one of the things they feel happy about is we can enrich those results from different sources, because otherwise they have to do those manually, as well as make them better visualizations. These are kind of, I just put few of the data science packages which are always evolving, which we have been using, right, currently using for play as code. These are some of for the models, right, as well as some packages for the data visualizations. And I'm hoping the slides will be available, right, so you should be able to take, right, because one of my reason to share it with you is, since we have done it in the practice, right, you should be able to take it back and say, okay, how you can improve some of the things, right, or how you can incorporate in some of the things you are thinking. And the visualization packages have been great, because that has suddenly just opens up your eyes, right, how quickly someone can take those IP address and show it in a big chart, right, of the clouds, right. So few of the future things, right, which we have been looking into, right. So you see, as we are kind of building that, showing it, definitely the number of successes, right, from from the team, right, on doing that as one of the main use case, improving our detections, improve the response, right, which is the co-analyst, right, so that we can increase the response in terms of if we can decrease what an analyst has to do manually, enrich the information for them, give them the results, give them the visualizations. Improve the prevention, right, how we can improve the prevention, like attack surface use case which we saw, right, and improving even not only the analyst but the back end operations, like you saw log and indexes coming in, right, and how we can even detect, right, some data center or some accounts are not sending us logs, right, knowing it about beforehand. A few other things, right, for us, right, one of the things which I focused a lot more is on how we are leveraging data science, right, to improve our security operations. There's definitely a new wave coming for us, right, which we are now dealing with, right, as the businesses are adopting more LLM generative AI models, right, how our incident response team, right, what exactly we need to be looking, right, to protect those businesses to do, right, what does a threat detection looks like for a team who is using generative AI, local LLM models, as well as the models in the cloud like OpenAI, right, so how we protect, and that may be a topic for the next talk, right, but that's where we have been spending now a lot of focus and energy on how we can prepare ourselves to be doing those type of detections, both on the monitoring incidents response as well as on the vulnerability management. So the key takeaways, right, so for me, like hopefully you got some ideas, right, how we all as security practitioners should be looking at not only how we protect our business from the threats of AI, LLM, generative AI models, right, but also how we can leverage ourselves, right, to make ourselves more effective. So you saw some use cases, right, there could be so many different use cases that could be applied, right. The other thing which we have been kind of trying to do is instead of trying to get a team of data scientists help us and enlighten us, that we have been trying to bring our resources, teach them ourselves, right, bring from inside up those skill sets, how they can do it. And for me, like if you want to go back and look into what are the use cases in your business, in your areas which you want to deal with, right, definitely a lot of opportunities here. And with that, I'll stop for any questions and answers.
So with this Splunk, you got Splunk. So now is there anything specific you are doing for the SIM and SOAR integration stuff? Will be combining with the ML, whatever you are talking?
Yeah, so the question is with the CISCO recently acquired Splunk, right, and how you are changing. Definitely, now Splunk is part of CISCO, so we will be leveraging more Splunk. Like I said, we were already using the Splunk's machine learning toolkit, so we are running number of things here, right. So there is a combination of what we can run in machine learning toolkit. Now, frankly, one of the issue when you run any of the MLTK, right, machine learning toolkit, you actually put more load on the Splunk. So as an architect, you need to be seeing, how much loading you are doing for a given SIM, because our SIM having millions, billions of logs is already under load, right? So we have been distributing certain load outside the Splunk to inside. But now, back to your question, Splunk is part of us, right? So we will be more open to how we leverage or even scale Splunk to do those things. But that's just, it's too early to kind of give you what exactly is our strategy. But that's something being discussed.
So one more added question to that. So whatever you showed, like various use cases, this is entire based on SOAR or cloud. Do you have something specific to fraud detection or anything fraud happening for insurance sectors or banking sectors? So one big thing with AI is the fraud is going to definitely bump up.
Yeah. So the question is fraud, right? Are you taking some of the use cases? The closest use case to, again, those become all your business areas, right? And a lot of the security detection goes into understanding the anomaly-based models, right, and doing it. To me, it would be because the closest I can think of what we are doing is some of the data exfiltration, looking into some files being exfiltrated, right, which is Cisco's intellectual property. So to go in and model it, right. So I think your fraud will base on what kind of fraud, right, and it's doable, but the closest which I can think of is we are looking into the intellectual property theft. for us. Yeah. You had some question?
Oh, yeah. So are you using any external resources, or is Cisco like blocking access to ChatGPT to make sure your data is not getting outside?
Okay, so the question is, are you using external resources blocking ChatGPT and others? Okay, here is the realistic thing, or here is the reality. Actually, we have the version of the ChatGPT available to our workforce, right, which is probably a version which is more enterprise version available, right, within Cisco for them to use, because our business wants to encourage, right, usage of it, but within certain guardrails, right, and those guardrails are put where we have like some of the what kind of searches they can do. They are signing up the responsible AI right before they do that, right, and those kind of things. So currently we have but it's not the public open AI thing, right? So we have our version which we are paying to Azure, right, which we are doing it, and I feel that's how a lot of the enterprise have to do it, right, because otherwise if you just block it, that's the easiest thing to do, right, just thinking from security, but that's not good for your business.
Yeah. Thanks.
You want to add?
I can answer a little bit more about that. We're using it's all API out to the Azure Cognitive Services. There's logs kept, and it's made sure that there's no learning model that we're not contributing. We are not contributing to the learning model, so it's kept in-house. Yes.
Thank you. If you don't know, this was Clark. He manages the application architecture team, and has been involved with the assessment and review of our ChatGPT implementation. Any more questions? So I'll be here for a few more minutes if you want to come back and talk, right? And we will be actually sharing the presentation deck, right? If you're interested, I know there's so much content there, right? And for me, it's much more like what we have learned is how I can share, right, with all of you, and you can get some ideas to apply. Thank you.